There's only one good use for the dark web, and that's being a criminal. Wait, is it? Let's talk about it. Before we get started, I'm going to use the obligatory, this is for educational purposes only. Please don't use this to break the law. Please don't use this every day, because accessing Tor from your PC or your Mac isn't necessarily the most anonymous way to do things. This is a high-level overview and understanding of how Tor works. So if you're cool with that, let's get going. Hi, I'm Chris Burns from Techie Gurus, and welcome back. Last week, I talked about the three parts of the internet. I specifically mentioned that the deep web was about 96% of the internet, and a subsection of the deep web is the dark web. But what is it? Well, the dark web is ruled by anonymity, and to get to the dark web, you have to use something called TOR, or the onion router. Now, there's a fallacy out there that everybody thinks that only criminals use the dark web. And that's not true. A lot of people use the dark web because they're in countries that maybe block internet access, maybe restrict what they can actually view. So they'll use the onion router, or TOR, to actually access this content. But how does it work? How do you use Tor? How do you get access to Tor? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. So let's start with the TOR project. And the TOR project is actually a 501c3 nonprofit in the United States. And their purpose is to advance human rights and defend privacy online through the use of free software and open networks. See, we think it's all criminals that are using it, but it's actually to help normal people surf the internet and have things like they block trackers, so they actually isolate each website you visit, and third-party trackers can't track you, they can't follow you, and any cookies automatically clear when you're done browsing. It also defends against surveillance. So it prevents someone from watching your connection, from knowing what websites you visit, including your ISP, and anyone monitoring your browsing habits. They can't see that. It also resists fingerprinting, which is when it makes everybody look the same. So it makes it difficult for you to be fingerprinted based on your browser and device information. And finally, it offers multi-level encryption to where your traffic is relayed and encrypted 3 times as it passes over the Tor network. So the network is comprised of thousands of volunteer run servers that are known as Tor relays. That's how it keeps you safe, but that's also how it protects criminals as well. That's why anonymity is so important to Tor. And it's really important in countries that maybe are blocking free speech, that are blocking communications out. But one thing to keep in mind is because of how the traffic is relayed, how it's encrypted, Tor is very slow. So your browsing will be slower. And some of the other downsides is it might look like you're browsing from another country. So if you actually access Google or something like that, it may think that you're in another country, so it might actually show a different language and things like that. That's the power of Tor. So now let's talk about how the browser works, where you can get it, and what you can use it for. So on torproject.org, you can actually download the browser for Android, Windows, macOS, and Linux. iOS is somewhat supported by something called the Onion browser, but because of the way that Apple requires WebKit to be used on an iOS device, it doesn't offer you the same level of privacy that you'll get on the other platforms. So just keep that in mind. So if you do download it, obviously PC, Mac, or Linux is probably your best bet. Android as well. Not necessarily iOS for like iPhones and iPads. All right, so once you have the Tor browser, you can actually browse the regular internet. And remember, Tor is designed for web browsing. It's not designed for streaming media or anything like that. You can also access .onion sites. Now, I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm not going to tell you to find them because they can host some pretty horrific content. That's where criminals and people that are trying to do some really shady stuff are going to be hosting their sites. So let's talk about how does it work with the web browser. So once you connect, you're actually going to hit an entry node. And that entry node is now going to use a middle relay to relay your traffic through a random exit node. And that exit node is actually where you get to the internet. So that's how the anonymization works on your traffic. And if you look at the images that I'm posting, the green is the encrypted, the red is the unencrypted. So as it leaves the exit node, and it's going to be unencrypted, but inside of that, it's all encrypted. That's how it stops trackers and it limits fingerprinting and things like that. But again, if you're going to use this, it's really just for web browsing. It's not for streaming media. It's not for really fast connections or anything like that, because it's going to be slow based on the fact that you're being relayed so many times. Let's get one more thing out of the way. This is not just for criminals. And I mentioned .onion sites, and that's important to understand because there are forums out there that people can buy credentials, can buy other things like drugs and guns and things like that. Don't use this for that. If you're going to use Tor and you want to be anonymous for whatever reason, you can go ahead and do that. But be very careful when you start going into the darkness of the web. All right, so this is meant to be a primer for Tor and a primer for understanding the dark web a little bit. And remember, it's for web browsing. It's not for streaming. It's not for downloading things. It's for web browsing. It's going to be relatively slow because you're not doing a direct connection to wherever you're going because you're getting relayed 3 times. So understand that and be cool with that. But if you want to be able to browse anonymously, if you're going to a country that maybe is going to limit your access to certain news or whatever you're looking for, you can leverage Tor in that case. And if it is a country that blocks Tor by default, they will use bridges to actually get around that. Now, if you do go to another country, I'm not a lawyer, so be careful with that. It could be breaking the law. In the United States, it's not illegal, but outside the United States, it can be illegal, so be careful. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea and an understanding of how to access it. Again, .onion sites can be dangerous. There are things on there that you don't want to see or things that you can buy that you shouldn't be doing. So keep that in mind. But I hope this was informative. I kind of hope this helps you understand how people are accessing the dark web. And until next time, stay cyber safe.